Salut, c'est Marie de Just French It. Welcome, welcome. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about why your pronunciation is not good in the first place and what to do if you want to sound like a French native. And I've got actual exercises for you in this video, so stay tuned. But before we dive in, if you are new here, I'm Marie. I am a French native, as you can hear. And I am also a French teacher. So if you need anything, just pop questions in the comments, right? I'll be there to answer them in a few moments. Okay, so 5 minutes per day to speak French like a native. Kind of sounds like a marketing promise, doesn't it? And it doesn't sound very well. But what I actually mean by this title is I'm going to give you exercises and specific exercises you're going to see to be able to speak French more naturally. Now, let's talk first why your pronunciation is not good. Well, it's got to do mainly, and especially if you're a beginner, it's got to do with the way you hear, French sounds. Now, when you first encounter sounds that you don't know, so that happens a lot when you are learning another language, right? You hear sounds that you are not used to hear in your language. Sounds that you have no idea how to pronounce, sounds that you have never heard before. Well, what happens in your brain is that your brain is tricking you into thinking, oh, this sounds like this sound that I know. And so your brain is tricking you into thinking this is sort of the same sound. And because of your muscles, because of the way you have been speaking so far in English or in whatever your native language is, then your mouth, if you try to reproduce this sound, is going to take its habits and is going to use this sound that is similar, so the sound that exists in your native language, and it's going to do it. It's not so much a conscious thing from your part, so it can be really frustrating at the beginning when you are learning French and you are trying to pronounce sounds like ah, which is a bit different from the English ah. When you are trying, sounds that really don't exist in your language, like the sound, this sound doesn't exist in English, so it's very hard for you to do it, and it's very hard for you to understand how to produce this sound because your muscle and your jaw and your throat is not able and does not remember how to do those sounds because you've never done them before, right? So your first problem is your first solution to sounding more natural in French is going to be able to tell your brain, I want to really hear what the person is saying, and I don't want to know which sound it sounds like, okay? And this is not, you can tell your brain and you can be really conscious about it, but your brain is going to trick you at the beginning, so your pronunciation is going to not be really good. And this is okay, you can get through this. But it means your brain sets you for failure at the beginning. So how to, rewire your brain to hear the right sounds? Well, there's just one solution to this, and it's going to be to listen. To listen, and to listen. Okay, this is your first solution is going to really listen more to what people are saying, to listen to more French, and not in the way listening to what the meaning behind it is. Because maybe you're not a beginner, maybe you are an intermediate and you think that your pronunciation is not good and you want to improve it, but you already understand what people are saying because you are used to certain words and so your brain recognizes them. Well, what I want you to do is to stop focusing on the meaning of what people are saying in videos that you are listening to, or, maybe don't do it with your French teacher, because if you are having a conversation, you need to be able to reply. But when you are listening to French, so French music, French movies, French videos, French YouTube, whatever it is, concentrate on the sounds rather than the meaning. And do this 5 minutes a day. It's going to help your brain recognize the sounds as they are, and so your mouth, and the next time you try to produce those sounds, you will hear them and say, okay, this is not the way it's supposed to sound, and so you are going to correct yourself. Okay, so listen more attentively, listen closely and actively to the sounds rather than be trying to understand what people are saying. Okay, so do this 5 minutes per day, and that's the first exercise. If you're a beginner, this is where you should start. If you're an intermediate and that you have a few troubles, you can try this one, but I have 2 more exercises for you. The other one is going to be to repeat. I know it sounds like I'm saying, it sounds like it's obvious and it is super obvious, but you really need to do them. So to repeat, and when you hear something new that you want to do, this is the first thing that you should do. For example, if you use Duolingo or Drops or any of those apps that are teaching you words and sentences in your target language, in French, they are giving you the sound with it. So when you are on your phone, maybe you are in a place where there are a lot of people, you don't really repeat, right? And that's a mistake, because that's the first thing that you should do. You should train your mouth to be able to repeat the sounds that you hear. You should always be speaking, 5 minutes here and there, French during the day. Even if it's not words that make sense, just repeat them. I remember that when I was starting to learn Swedish, so a few months ago, I stopped in between, but a few months ago, I was using Duolingo, and when I was going on walks, because I go on daily walks, and on my daily walks, I was repeating the words that I learned today. And it was very useful, and I think my Swedish pronunciation is quite okay for a beginner, compared to what it could be if I didn't do that. So repeating new words, repeating new sounds, repeating everything, and not just relying on your brain, but also relying on your, face muscles to be able to remember how a certain sound is supposed to sound. Okay, so repeat everything new that you hear. If your teacher is teaching you a new word, repeat. If your teacher is, correcting your pronunciation, don't just listen, but also repeat. Okay? And then your teacher is going to correct you as well. That's another way you can find, and you can check if your brain is tricking you or not into hearing sounds that don't exist in the language, but that resemble some sounds that you've heard in your own language. So first exercise, listen. Second exercise, repeat. If you are a beginner, repeat as well, but start by listening to a lot of things. But if you are actively learning, then you need to repeat. And then the next one is going to be a repetition exercises as well, but it's going to be to repeat with a mirror. And I could maybe say train with a mirror. And this is a 2-part exercise as well. And this works when you are using video and when you are using movies especially. Because when you're using movies and video, you actually see people speaking. So you see the way people are putting their lips. Maybe in some cases you can actually see where people are putting their tongue as well, and that would be even more amazing. But if you see the way people are pronouncing some vowels, for example with the I, you need to smile when you say a I. If you don't smile, it doesn't sound like a I. So training with a mirror and looking at yourself when you are pronouncing those letters, when you are pronouncing those sounds, it's going to help, really. Okay, you are going to look ridiculous. We all look ridiculous when we are learning languages, so don't worry about that. And and it's kind of fun to do as well. You get a good laugh out of it. So training with a mirror, really, it helps. So those are the 3 exercises. To listen more actively instead of, trying to find the meaning behind it. And this is a big thing for beginners, because if someone is teaching you something, you don't want to concentrate too much and panic that you don't understand. Just listen to the sounds and then repeat. And make sure to repeat every new word that you are learning. And then the third exercise is going to be to train with a mirror. To train with a mirror to be able to mimic the way the mouth actually looks like when French people are talking. Because French people actually do talk a lot with their lips. The lip placement is actually important in French, not as much in English. So that was the 3 exercises. If you want a guide to improving your pronunciation, I actually have something for you, and it's called Natural French Pronunciation. Natural French pronunciation, and the link is in the description below the video. Link in the description below the video. It's so hot here, I just don't know how to type anymore. So anyway, if you want to go further with me, there is a Natural French Pronunciation in the description. I'm also available this summer for teaching for, I have a few slots to offer to you if you want to work with me on your pronunciation. So don't hesitate to send me an email and let's see if I can do something for you. Okay? Well, that's it for today. See you another time. À la prochaine. Bye bye.